Welcome back. It's been a few months that we've been on hiatus, but I'm so excited to be back here at Rolling with my homies. We are presented today by Outside in Theater, and if you would like to support the channel, you can subscribe below, or you can visit www.outsideintheater.org for more information. I am so excited to have my first guest of the season. We met doing a panel together on, just actors with disabilities. And I knew from that panel that I was going to have her as a guest on the show as soon as possible. So I hope you all love getting to know Alice as much as I did. Please welcome to the show, Alice Deal, everybody. Yay!
Yeah! Please. No pictures.
No screenshots. How are you?
I'm good. I'm stoked to be here with you. You're a fantabulous person and host. And
thank you.
I'm so excited that we became friends.
Yes, me too. I feel like we have so much in common just based on our Instagrams, which is really cool. And one of the first things that I guess we should talk about, because I feel like this was how I sort of got to know you, was through your Instagram account, which is Rolling Stoned. And tell us a little bit about that, because, I
started 3 years ago. Well, I guess we should maybe backtrack a little bit. I came into medical cannabis because I have cerebral palsy. I was born 3 months early, and which caused a minor bleed in my brain, which caused spastic diplegia cerebral palsy. Oh. And what that means for me is I have my lower extremities don't work on their own, so I can't walk without hanging on to something. And I have a constant body twitch, and it can affect my sleep patterns, migraines, all sorts of things. So cannabis is kind of like that magical thing that just gave me all the things that I was missing, and I also have a secondary seizure disorder, so it really helped with that. But it didn't come into my life until 2009. And at this point in California, medicine, as I like to call it, was not very well regulated. You just get like little medicine like this,
right?
Medicine bottles full of herb, and then they would tell you what the strain was, but that was about it. So half the time, I would smoke something and panic, which is defeated the purpose, and I'd have to shake these breaks all the time, and it was super obnoxious. But then medicine became regulated, and it's fine now. But I really came into Rolling Stoned because I met my wife in 2013. She has multiple sclerosis, and I was already a seasoned smoker by 2013. Mm-hmm. So I said, hey, you should smoke this to see if it helps. And it was a game changer. And that's when I was like, I wonder if I could just find accessible cannabis products and review them and put them on YouTube. So we were looking around for accessible products, and I found the Auto. The Auto it's like an AI grinder. Basically, you can roll a joint with a cone and a little cylinder.
Uh-huh.
It basically grinds your weed and fills your cone for you.
Hot tip, everybody.
Hot tip. This is the Auto. So I was like, man, this thing does everything for you. Because I found other products, but nothing is as good as that,
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, hey, I'm starting this YouTube channel. I'm just starting out. I think your product is really cool and it's really accessible. They're like, hey, we're going to send you one. So it's like, holy cow, this is like $100 unit. That was really nice of them. So I reviewed it in front of my closet, which I thought it was going to be stupid, but my wife and brother-in-law convinced me otherwise. So I shot it in front of my closet and then sent it off. And I said, hey, thanks. And they're like, so we want to meet with you. And I'm like, really? Okay, cool. So I wonder what that's about. And they have this big office. It looks like Snoop Dogg hangs out there on the regular. That's what it looked like. And they were like, no, we think, I don't know, we love your name. Because I'd already had the name picked out and all that stuff. Uh-huh. It's from a Sublime song. I'm a huge Sublime fan.
Nice.
Yeah, everything, it's the same in the end. That's where it comes from. And they liked the name, and I said, yeah, I just want to review like accessible products, or maybe talk about disabilities and have conversations with people about how it helps them. They're like, well, we have a studio if you want to like put some stuff together. And I was like, I think I just got like sponsored. So it was nuts. And then they're like, yeah, starting Instagram, see how that goes. Because Instagram is really picking up. And I said, okay.
This was 2013?
No, this was in 2018.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, so yeah, they're like, starting Instagram, see where that goes. It's really starting to pick up. So I was like, okay, what am I, doing? So I'm, and my wife and I started to look up disabilities and the strains that work for those disabilities. And then that's how that started. We just kind of had our own thing going for a while, and it just became something bigger. It's a community.
Yeah. So different strains work better for different disabilities. Is that because of energy levels and things like that?
I think it's possible. Yeah. Or I don't know. I think everybody's so different. Everybody's so diverse, like the plant itself, Mm-hmm. It's really even hard to tell based on research. There would have to be a lot more research out there, but I'm always like, you do have to feel comfortable to take the risk and start to figure out yourself what works for you, because that's the only way you're going to find out.
Yeah. Yeah, you recently did such a cool thing where you got to smoke weed with like a legend, which is Squints from The Sandlot. That was so cool.
It was so cool. I'm glad that you're freaking out about it, because I still am, and so yeah, that was gold for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny to see somebody that because I've watched that movie 1,000 times, and it's funny to see someone that is immortalized as a child in your mind, and then all of a sudden the next time you see him, he's like kind of a hot dude smoking weed, and you're like, what did this happen? Oh
yeah, no, I have his glasses on it says forever.
Sick.
Yeah, cool. No. It's like literally meeting one of your heroes, and he just fits right into what we were going with, because when I initially started this, I had my trepidations, because I was like, I don't want it to be like, I already have, like the disability issue and the gay issue and all that with Hollywood, and here I am with cannabis. Right. But I wouldn't be who I am without any of those things, though.
Exactly.
They're like,
how does your family, how's your family feel about you being like a very public cannabis user?
Oh, that's good that you said that. My parents are honestly thrilled because I don't have the massive seizures like I used to have. Mm-hmm. And it's the same with my wife. Like, they're on a low chemo grade drug to keep their MS at bay. And that's always going to be the case. So I think our family luckily understands that it's just we smoke to feel better. That's it.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
Well, for me, I always think about how, especially now that it's legalized in California and in many, many states, and I just don't see why it's okay for somebody to post a picture of themselves drinking, their third martini of the night, but somebody talks about marijuana and all of a sudden it's like,
well, but that's the stigma. Yeah. And that's why another reason why we started Rollin Stone was to erase the stigma and to let people know that you can be successful and smoke weed on the daily. Like, if you're not, then that's on you. I don't think it necessarily has to do with, and sometimes the plant has told me to knock it off. Don't do that. Or don't, that's not for you. Mm-hmm. It'll tell you when, hey, this isn't working. It's pretty smart that way.
Do you use it strictly medicinally, or would you say you also use it recreationally?
The way I think about it is that I think everybody uses it for medicinal purposes, whether they realize it or not. I think that even if they didn't realize it, maybe they needed it at that time.
But sometimes are you like, maybe you're not experiencing any pain, nothing's gone, but you're like, you know what, I feel like getting high, or are you just on a schedule and it's only sort of medicinal? Like, what is it?
Yeah, I guess for me it's medicinal.
Gotcha. Cool. That's cool.
But it's throughout the day. I mean, the way Seth Rogen talks about it, we're probably very similar. I have medicated when I'm acting, but that was only because I absolutely had to. Like, I had a migraine going, so I had to take a break and do that. But again, I've built my tolerance as such where I'm pretty functional whenever I have it. So I think that's important too. You gotta get used to the plant. You can't just smoke every once in a while. Your body has to really get used to it.
Right. There's a difference between being just a quote lazy stoner and being a functioning person who uses marijuana or cannabis or whatever.
Yeah, and I get the laziness and feeling better. I mean, I think that cannabis probably saved a lot of people during the pandemic. As opposed to like booze, it's a much healthier option. So, this world is stressful. I don't think that if you literally just want to smoke and be lazy for a day, treat yourself. That's what it's there for.
Yes, sometimes you really do just need to relax or go on what I call a brain vacation and stop thinking and let your mind sort of go to a different space. And I think marijuana helps with that. You mentioned your acting career, and I want to talk about that a little bit too, because recently you just did a show that just debuted at second season on Netflix, Special, right?
Yeah.
What was that experience like? Was it fun?
Well, I have been very blessed to be on both the big disability shows in the last 5 years. I've been on Speechless and Special. And both times I told my wife, well, I'm going to be on that show in some capacity. So I think I was meant to be on those shows, and I hope it continues with other shows because those shows weren't around long enough. I know. Well, Special had 2 seasons, and then Speechless had 3. So
is Special done?
Yeah, that was their final season. Yeah,
that's a bummer. How did you start? How did you become an actor? Did you always want to be an actor, or
I wanted to play baseball for the San Francisco Giants. And when that career went as far as it could, I got into downhill skiing. So my family was very athletic. And then when I couldn't do those things, which was often because of my disability, I popped in a tape because I was born in 86. So I'm really a 90s kid. VHS is my first love.
Yeah.
And I never thought it was a waste of time when I had to sit in front of the TV and be entertained. Like, I wanted to know everything about the actors, the movie. And that's just what I became known for. And then eventually I had my own cable access show when I was a teen called Alice's Flicks, Picks and Kicks.
Cool.
So I would rent like a movie and get free movie tickets. So that's always kind of been there. But in between that time period, I was also doing like 3 plays a year. It's in my family. My great aunt Alice was in one of the first productions of I'm blanking, Tarzan and the Apes on stage in New York. And we have the same gap. And she was disabled with rheumatoid arthritis by the time she was 30.
Do you think that you're some sort of reincarnation of her because you have the same name? It sounds like maybe there's some part of her in you.
Yeah. And I think that Alice is definitely been a guiding light. And this, so I think she passed that on to me through tapes and be like, hey, this is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And then when I was 16, I got given the first annual John Ritter Scholarship for Young Actors with Disabilities in 2003.
John Ritter, R.I.P., gone too soon.
I never got to meet him. He died, I think, a couple of months after I got the award. But I used his money to fix my teeth. So this is a John Ritter smile.
Oh, wow. That's so cool. Yeah, John Ritter's one of those guys where, you know, I didn't cry when he died. Then, like, a few months later, I woke up in the middle of the night, put on the TV, and Three's Company was on, an old episode, and I just, he just seemed like the nicest guy, and I feel like he just loved everybody. And
He did, and he also, his dad founded United Cerebral Palsy, so.
I did not know that.
I know. And see, I didn't know that until years later, so it's just like, it's a total, like, full circle moment. Like, there's these people that aren't here anymore that I think are clearly watching me.
Yeah. Did his dad have something?
No, his brother Tom does. His older brother Tom.
Okay, so there you go. That was a fun fact. But you have a lot of movie. I mean, look, you're surrounded by movies.
Yeah, this is kind of my film study. My wife and I didn't have a lot of money at the time, so we went thrifting. I love the thrift store. I could live there, die there, totally happy. And I just stumbled upon all these VHS that were there, and I was like, holy cow, now I can have the collection I always wanted. And, you know, and then my dad, I think, eventually found me a TV, and he's like, why don't you just start playing them? And I was like, okay. And then it just grew from there. And so I'm doing what I've always done, just talking about movies.
What do you like about VHS versus, you know, DVD, Blu-ray, or?
Well, obviously, it's what I grew up with as a kid. So there's nostalgia there.
Yeah.
And I think, like, all the artwork on a tape, like, I don't know, it's just how it originally was and what you grew up with, and the film is right there.
Yeah.
The film itself.
It's almost like the music version of putting on a record, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and I grew up in the video store. I absolutely love that culture, and I miss it dearly. I don't
want to ask this because I feel like it's so limiting, but if you had to have, like, a top 3, do you have it, or is it just too hard for you to choose?
Top 3 films?
Yeah, top 3 movies.
Halloween.
Okay.
Simply because it plagued me I was so terrified of it that I couldn't watch it for 15 years, and then I did, and then it was the best movie I ever saw.
Okay.
So,
Halloween.
Oh man, Scream.
Love Scream.
Yeah, that was the first horror movie I was obsessed with.
Yeah, so good.
And grew up with.
So funny.
God. Oh, Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Wow, good one.
Yeah.
I think you also love Beetlejuice, which is one of in my top 3. I know you have all these, like, figurines, and I'm jealous of your Adam Long.
And I'm gonna move for a second so I can get some stuff down for you.
Okay, cool. This is very fun for me. I'll tell you this story while you're doing that. When I was in the hospital as a little girl, you know, they only had the rolling cart TV at the time, and the movies that you could rent from the rec room. And the only 2 movies they had at the time were Ernest Goes to Camp and Beetlejuice. And I hated Ernest. I'm sorry. It wasn't for me. And so I watched Beetlejuice every day for months, and never got old. Oh, it's just so classic. It's just so good.
That's an original there.
I got Michael Keaton a few years ago at the Media Access Awards. That was fun.
You did?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yep. There's
I told him that story. I told him my hospital story, and he really liked it. Yeah.
Oh, good.
That's so classic. Oh, it's so cool.
Yeah. So
if you could be in a reboot of any of these movies, you know, like, who would you be? Like, mine, I'll tell you mine off the bat. I would want to do Marissa Tomei's character in My Cousin Vinny.
Because you fucking nail it.
That would be my dream reboot role. Do you have one?
Oh, God. It's got to be good, right?
I know. I ask the tough questions on Rolling with My Homies.
I like it, though. I like these questions. Jesus.
You got to think about this. You got to start putting it out in the universe so that you get to, because you obviously are good at manifesting stuff if you believe in that.
I guess I'm realizing that now. Jesus.
Yeah. What do you want to do? What do you want to be?
Well, I guess, yeah. I'm a huge fan of Dee Wallace. And
oh my gosh, yes. Oh my gosh, I have such a funny Dee Wallace. She's a spiritual healer now, which is so funny that we were talking about healers and stuff. And I had her do a spiritual healing for me once, and she was in Cujo, right? And I lived Cujo, and all I kept thinking was like, don't mention Cujo, it's just not the time, don't mention it. And then
she loves Cujo.
I should have mentioned it. I don't know, I was nervous. It was like one of my first celebrity encounters in LA. I was trying to play it cool. And during the session she asked me, name a movie, any movie. And I was like, and all I could think about was Cujo. I couldn't think of any other movie in the world. And so finally I just blurred out, Look Who's Talking Now. What? The one with the dogs. I mean, who thinks of that movie? And then she gave me a part of my spiritual reading based on that movie. And I'm like, this is not authentic. I should have just said Cujo. She's great.
Look Who's Talking Now is also a good one, though. I do like it's a song, because I don't really care for the second one so much.
Same. One is classic and 3 is so fun.
I know. It's I have the original. Yeah, and that's how that started. I'm not sure. Yeah, Dee Wallace for sure. I actually met her when I was a little girl. I was accidentally on this TV show with Robert Conrad. He lived where I lived, up in the High Sierra Mountains.
What show?
And he's known me ever since I was a little kid. So, and he had a show up there, and Dee Wallace was a part of it. And like, she was just super nice and like told me what to do. And then years later, I got to do some classes with her. So we've known each other for a long time.
Aww.
And I just think that she just throws every part of herself into what she's doing. And that's exhausting, and you're going to pay for it, but it's going to look so good at the end of the day, because Cujo there's not really much to it. If you think about it, it's the St. Bernard and a kid in a car.
Right.
A Pinto and her.
Yeah.
But the movie there's parts of it that I can't even watch because it's just so intense, especially with Danny Pintaro. It's super intense what he's going through. And something of that, like a Sid. I wouldn't mind playing like a Sid, or a final girl, or even a villain. I love, there's plenty of reasons why you do evil shit.
Yeah, totally. Or I could see you in some sort of a Jamie Lee Curtis type role as well. Speaking of Hollywood.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right.
See, myself better than that. Jamie Lee is another classic that can do horror, but she could also do comedy. She's very versatile. Yeah.
That's what I love about her too. Yeah. She's always bringing it, and she you just know, you're getting something good when she's on screen.
Yeah. And I appreciate that because, she's a little androgynous too. Yeah. So, and always has been, and has never shied away from that either. I mean, it also probably helps that she comes from a Hollywood background.
Right.
But still, I mean, this look took me a long time to get comfortable with.
Right.
And
well,
wearing my hair short and multicolored and tattoos and all that, like being gay and being a public figure. It took a while to look this cool.
Well, now you're nailing it. And I want to talk about that too, because intersectionality is so important. And, you're right. It's like already people are judging you off the bat because you have a disability. And now you're going to also put another unnecessarily stigmatized thing on top of it because our society is so behind the times. Somehow it's the times we created, but they're still somehow managed to be behind. So, so how are you? I mean, it's Pride Month, yay! How are you dealing with? I mean, do you go to Pride events? Is accessibility getting better in that realm, or what's that looking like these days?
Honestly, I'm sort of like I've been married for 7 years.
Yeah.
So I'm more of a homebody these days. I feel like there's a lot more aspects to Pride than just going to, clubbing and all that stuff and partying. I don't get me wrong. I had an absolute blast when I came out of the closet at 19 and went to gay clubs. Mm-hmm. They're so fun. Yeah. So fun. There's inaccessibility all over the place. You should go, if you have a disability and you go to anything like that, you should always have someone with you. And I know some people don't like to do that, but there's nothing wrong with that for asking for help and having somebody be with you in a crowded area where there's going to be alcohol or whatever else involved. You should absolutely have somebody with you to be on your side, disabled or not. Like, when you get into those situations, you should have a buddy system.
I've noticed that the conversation, around disability during this Pride Month is, a lot of posts on Instagram and things like that about making sure that things are accessible. So I'm hoping, because, I feel like the gay community and the disability community, while, it's different, there are so many similarities, in the feelings of being,
absolutely,
citizens, or just being like having family members maybe be ashamed or afraid or not, and like all these feelings that surround it are kind of similar, and so I feel like we're all on the same team.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I bars and clubs are kind of tough because sometimes their bathrooms aren't accessible, or then you have to worry about cabs. Uber's great. I've never had an issue with me personally. I've never had an issue, but I know a lot of people with disabilities have. You have. So.
And Lyft.
Yeah. So, I mean, that all kind of factors into it that we should be paying attention to.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. And also clubs and bars. It's not only just, even if it's the most accessible one in the world, crowds and things like that can sort of be scary. And
yeah, I think that I was blessed with confidence. Mm-hmm. And so I just love to just get in there and dance, Yeah. And, I was lucky that I only encountered maybe a couple of hairy situations where it wasn't good. But then again, that's why I had a friend there, and the friend noticed that and was like, no, we're leaving, But yeah, you have to be, it's not easy being in those situations with a disability, but it doesn't mean that it can't be done.
Yes, but it is easier for someone like you, and I think I say myself too, who we're more outspoken and we can sort of speak up not only for ourselves but on behalf of the next person with a disability that comes to the space. And sometimes it's a lot to take on. I know that you're talking about cultural, there seems to be a cultural change, and it's important to just be nice to each other.
Yeah, and just understanding, and just, like it's tough because I think that every person with a disability has their own boundaries and what they're comfortable with. Mm-hmm. I think that there's nothing wrong with being inspiring most of the time. I think I've earned my inspiring patch, and I'm happy to wear it to help others, because I know at the end of the day, maybe something I said really helped somebody. But I understand when somebody, there's different ways. I understand that most of our community is not okay with that, though.
Well, you and we're actors, we're, some level of influence. Like, we don't mind being in the public eye, but that's not everybody's personality.
No.
And people who don't want to do that don't want to do that. Just because they're in a wheelchair or have whatever visible or non-visible disability doesn't mean they want to be a social justice warrior forever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and that's okay. Like, but it's, I think it's just a matter of just being receptive and open and not judgmental. And
totally. Yeah, just let people live, know? But you have to, for me, physical accessibility is a huge barrier because it's 2021. And I'm like, have we made that much progress I still go to restaurants and theaters and things like that. And I'm like, what the hell? How can this
I don't, as far as like, I think the biggest accessible thing to happen to us lately has been Zoom.
I agree. I think that this quarantine has done wonders for the disability community, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. And also they tried to kill us too. Let's not ignore that fact. But I mean, this is a real positive that's come out of it for sure. But I mean, America has so far to go, and it's just, it all has to do with, the fact that we live in a society that's about what you can get done within your day. That's your worth. And I don't believe that. I feel like you're a human being. You're here on this earth for a reason. You're good enough.
I love that. Now, you said before that your wife has an MS, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So do they use a wheelchair, or?
Occasionally they do when they feel very weak.
How do you feel about that? Because that's interesting to me, because I've always wondered, I have never dated anybody with a disability. I always wondered how we would navigate, because I'm so used to my partners picking me up when we go on vacation or when we go somewhere that's not accessible. And I'm like, how would it work? So what is it like?
Now I'm glad you asked me that. I used to say the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I dated a guy that was in a wheelchair that had CP, and he wanted to marry me. And I was like, oh, I think I'm gay. So that's how that started. And I felt really bad. We're still somewhat friends. But, and then I was like, yeah, I think that would be too hard. And that's something I always said. But then I dated somebody that was quote unquote able-bodied, and they treated me terribly.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I didn't date anyone for 2 years after that because it was really bad. And, but they also had mental disabilities, but they didn't see it as a disability. It was just a whole big mess. Okay. So I didn't date anyone for a long time. And then I met my wife on Plenty of Fish, and she said, oh, by the way, I have MS. And, most people who meet my wife wouldn't know that she's sick at all. It would only be until you got to know her and spend a day with her that you go, oh, MS sucks. Really?
Right.
Right. So for the first couple of years, I mean, that she would have flare-ups and stuff, but it didn't start to affect her too bad until she had to retire.
Okay. And
now it's just kind of like, we just want her to feel better and, use whatever they can to get around, and they're still able to do a great deal, but the heat certainly doesn't help. It's been crazy hot right now.
I know, in LA.
So it's we're just there for one another, and I don't know, our bond has always been just super strong, and I can accredit that to, I think, us both having disabilities.
Yeah, because that's
just being understanding of one another.
Yeah, that's the pro. The pro is that they understand things that, I mean, even I know, like in my friendships, I have friendships with able-bodied people or non-disabled, non-physically disabled people who I know that they love me, but there's certain things that they'll never understand. And then I have to be like, I'm calling Mia. She's going to get this, because I have a friend, Mia's in a wheelchair. So it's like, there's a level of understanding. So, I mean, there's going to be pros and cons to everybody that you date. So that's great that you have that. And you said that you met on Plenty of Fish. So that's something I'm interested about too, because I'm on the dating apps, and I know, some people are on those. So now when you're on the app, right, how do you disclose your disability, like at the top? Is it something you roll in, no pun intended?
Again, as you can tell, I'm already an open book. And at that time I had gotten out of an abusive relationship. So I was about looking for exactly what I wanted and putting it all out there. And I went on a lot of dates, and I was like, oh, we're just gonna be friends. I started to drive my mom nuts because she's like, oh my God, every time you go on one of these dates, you say you're just gonna be friends, like, la la la. And then I was like, I'm telling you, it's not the right one. And then Amanda came along, and I was like, okay, you just know.
So you had it on your profile out the gate.
Yeah, and in my pictures, and I had my service dog at the time, and I was just honest from the get-go.
But you said Amanda didn't have it on her profile at first, and they told you about it.
Yeah. So that was interesting, and so like that was an adjustment for them, and like to be more open about their illness. And they were not in a situation in their life at all where they could be. And their brother has autism as well. So it's
your brother does?
No, her brother. My brother-in-law.
Okay, so now did you know anything about MS before? Because I personally don't know everything about every disability just because I have a spinal cord injury.
No, I didn't. And for a lot of years, or not a lot of years, but maybe like the first 2, I'd be like, oh yeah, my wife has this, zombie disease where, her immune system eats her cells or whatever. And I'd try to do this big joke about it. And then I would be like, I sound like such an asshole right now. And I think part of that was I was scared because it is a illness. It is a very scary illness. And I think that scares me some days too. Of course it does. She's my soulmate,
So you're just using humor to sort of, I think that a lot of people with disabilities are very funny because we do have to use humor, not only to make ourselves feel better, but to make other people feel better, right? I mean,
yeah.
When I was a little
but
girl,
then as I got more informed, and then Amanda was comfortable being informed, and then she was able to create this whole persona, hands, So education is the key. No matter how scary, it's actually more scary the less you know.
Totally. I know. It's just like I said, there's the societal barriers as well as the physical barriers, and then your own implicit bias that we all probably, I don't know if you have it, but I definitely did. I mean, I just mentioned a friend that I had in a wheelchair, but I didn't have friends in wheelchairs growing up because I was like, I don't want everyone to think that's all I can get.
And I kind of went through that too. I grew up in a small town in the High Sierras in Northern California. And I was like one of 10 disabled kids in the county at the time. And I all knew them because my therapist was disabled herself. My physical therapist was disabled herself, and she adopted a lot of kids with disabilities. So I kind of knew all of them and all the kids that would filter in and out that she would give services to. And I remember like not really wanting to associate myself with the kids that had like more mental disabilities at the time because I was nervous. I was unsure. I didn't know. I was a little tiny bleep in a tiny walker. I didn't know if they were going to knock me over or be unpredictable. And then, it didn't take me till my teens where I realized like, these are your people, bro, though. Like, these are your people. Every disability, just by being yourself, that you're changing this person's world. And they're like, not only was that the easiest job, but that was the best job. Yeah. And that's ever since my late teens that I've always been about my disability community. But yeah, no, I definitely have felt that way when I was younger before I got the education and the self-love. But that's because there's nothing in our society saying it's fine to be disabled.
Exactly.
And if that's the one thing I want to tell you from Rolling Stone that I hope you come away with is that it's perfectly fine to be disabled. It's perfectly fine.
That's what I think is one of the great things about social media. There's a lot of things that are horrible and horrendous and soul sucking about it. But one of the great things is that it's giving people with a disability control over our own narrative, so that the only time that you see it isn't just in a movie about someone who kills themselves, but it's what we put out, and it's our, we can say, hey, look, I went to the beach today. Hey, look, I went to the, hey.
And I think that's what I was always trying to do, even as a kid, but we didn't have phones yet. We didn't have internet. So
right. It was a slow burn. It was like, I remember when MySpace came out and I started to see other, young, attractive girls in wheelchairs. And I was like, I knew there was more of us.
I know. Like,
Yeah, I knew it, but why have we never seen them? I mean, very rarely, or of course, when you do, it's played, someone's able-bodied and they're just playing the part, or they're on one episode and gone forever. We all know how it goes.
Yeah. So, but I think, it's just, it's been wonderful, and I think that's what I tell people is just, start your own thing and people will notice, and that'll be helpful to you because then they'll have something to refer back to and be like, oh, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah, exactly. And they can sort of follow along and be, inspired properly, like inspired by all that you're doing, not inspired because you did one thing. You know what I mean? It's like
right.
you want people to be inspired because you're.
And I want people to know that it's not like I have my good and bad days too. Like I'm not here to only promote like my good days and only smiles and stuff. Like I'm here to also say like there's for every busy day that I have, there's lots of downtime, but there's less because of cannabis. So she's like my ultimate buffer, you know?
Yes.
So.
See, and that's so interesting because people would assume the opposite. They would assume that that's what takes away your drive or something like that. So it's great that you're speaking on behalf of the very true flip side of that, you know?
Yeah, and because I think that's just the stigma talking.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of what we talked about today is the stigma talking, the stigma about this, and I'm glad to see that a lot of these things are getting better and a lot of these barriers are breaking down, but it still feels like kind of like a slow, and a lot of times people with disabilities.
Well, and I think 2020 didn't freaking help. That was ridiculous what we all just went through. Are you kidding me?
It was so
like
divisive.
Yeah, and you know, it's just like and part of that could be social media. Like you do have to be careful. Like I felt like everyone that I was involved with in certain projects turned out to be Trumpers, and it was crazy. And would I have known that though if I hadn't been on Facebook? So I think it's good to take breaks.
Yeah, I really wish there was a way that we could start coming back together for whatever side you're on, starting to meet in the middle, because I think that that's important. I think that we can't shut down half of the country in either direction. It feels like that's all anybody wants to do is just attack. Not anybody, but the extreme.
And it wasn't always like that. Like, you know, like I'm 34 and it wasn't like that, guys. It wasn't. It felt like it was like, okay, like we can always meet in the middle somehow. It did. I mean, but then again, maybe I was naive. That was probably me being a little less educated, because just because it was okay for me doesn't mean that it was okay for somebody else.
Well, I think that again, with social media, I think that it just exposed a lot more of what was already happening, you know? And
yeah.
So now we have to start bridging these gaps, I think. I don't know. We'll see. We have to. I mean, what else are we going to, unless we divide the country and I mean, what are we going to do? We have to work together at some point. We can't keep ping-ponging back and forth from 4 years of this, 4 years of that. It's exhausting for everybody.
I don't know. I think a female lead is coming. A female change.
That would be,
nice. It would be nice, but there's a lot of another thing that's scary is all these judges. You know, they could put something in place and then a judge can vote it down, and it's like, well, why even have the pop and circumstance if you're just going to have somebody block it at the end of the day? Like, you're not getting anything done then.
Yeah,
it's just nutty. Like,
right,
it's just ridiculous. I don't know. I'm proud of us too, that the ones that made it through and the ones that didn't, RIP. And yeah, it's just crazy.
Yeah, totally. So what else, what do you have coming up in the pipeline? What are you excited about for 2020?
I'm just excited in general. Like, I think that, coming off the special, again, that was another opportunity where I told my wife, like, I'm going to be a part of the show. And I did. I auditioned actually for Nicole's role. But then I got in the Crypt Prom instead, which me and Nicole have known each other since college.
Oh,
and
wonderful.
Yeah. So you said you adore her?
Yeah, I love her. I think
she's the best. And
very good actress.
Yeah, so the fact that we started like in Moorpark College together and to see this progression is just so cool. And the special was actually our first on-screen appearance. So we knew that, I think the universe is trying to tell us that they want us to be together somehow. And there's been a lot of connections as of late where I think that's probably going to happen through Maysoon Zayed.
Great.
Who's also another comedian with cerebral palsy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of talented actors with disabilities who are finally getting their moments.
Yeah, and it seems like I've been here for 15 years, 16 years, and it seems like all the people that I know too are finally having their moment. And I think it does take time for the most part in this business. It takes time
for anybody. That's true of any. It's important, I think, that not only that actors, but as actors with disabilities as well, know that you have to put in the work. You have to, take train and learn. And you can't just say, "Oh, I have a disability. Put me on screen because we need representation."
I think people need to know that acting is a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
And they expect a lot of us. And I'm going to tell you the audition process, for example. You usually get a script, or they call that sides in the business, and you get it maybe 1 to 2 days prior. Okay, that's pretty quick. Yeah. And then you have to film it yourself, and then send it over. And then if you get the part, it's a week later and all that stuff. So everything happens really fast.
Right.
So you have to get to a point where you feel comfortable enough in your craft to not overthink anything and just go. You know what I mean? And get good coaches that are willing to just be really comfortable with you. I don't like the coaches that are really serious, to be honest. So serious that your phone can't ring, or.
I think that, it depends. It's important to find a coach or an acting teacher that works well for you, because there are so many out there. So if you
don't have to be married to a coach just because, that's who you know and all that stuff. I feel like I'm practically married to my set of coaches now because I've been studying with them for 10 years and it works. And they're really easygoing. And they always have been. And that's just what I need. I feel like, and they do. I don't know if you've seen some of my scene work, but they really push me into it. And there's been times where I'm like, okay, I can't do any serious scenes this week. I just got freaking triggered, but they're just trying to get as much possible out of me. So when the time comes, it's not that much different than just going to class.
Right. Do you have an agent?
I do. I'm with Gail Williamson, KMR.
Oh, cool. So that's how you got the special audition. And was that how you got Speechless too?
Well, Gail, when I got back in with Gail, it was after a pretty long hiatus because I was pissed that there was no work for people with disabilities at the time. And so I became an LGBT advocate and a disability advocate. And I was also a professional nerd girl. Not kidding. We would go around to conventions. And that's why I'm so nerdy here. I am literally a professional nerd girl.
Wow. Great.
Yeah. And and I got back together with Gail, and she said, I think the reason where we are right now is because of Gail. Just by the way, everything that she's built. She's a huge part of where we are right now in California. But where was I going with this? Yeah. So she said, hey, you should sign up with Central Casting, which is the main casting for all of the background gigs that you see on film and television. So it's okay. So I did, and I've done that before. But, sure enough, it just exploded. And I think because I was specific, I had a disability, I was their go-to. And I was professional. I didn't have any complaints. And it became I could have a gig, a regular gig. And that was just really great because for me, it was like going to film school without the fee. I got to see how everything works and how it gets done and what they're looking for. And, and that's when I got on 911 at the time. So it just started to really snowball. And I think it's just a matter of putting in the work and knowing the right people and just listening to what they say, letting them be your guide and coach.
Do you find that you go out for disability specific roles only, or do you think that?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much how it works with KMR, to be honest.
Oh, okay.
I think it's going to take one of us to kind of change that personally. And it's going to happen. I think with all the attention that we've gotten with all of our successes over time, it's gonna change. But yeah, that's kind of how it works for right now.
But the good news is there are so many more disability specific roles, so it's not as disheartening. I mean, there was a time where, you know, like you and I would be going up, we probably still now would go up for some of the same roles. And it's like, if we were walking, we would not be going out for the same roles, probably.
Yeah. No, absolutely not. You're Marissa Tomei. I'm Jamie Lee Curtis. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
In what world are they up for the same part? I mean, probably not often, but because of, the disability, I'll go to an audition and I'll see a man in his 40s and a 12-year-old girl and a 60-year-old, and they're all in wheelchairs. And I'm like, what are we doing here? What is the part?
Yeah.
Right?
No, it's going to take, I think, somebody actually being like, okay, this person is a bona fide star.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, we're working there.
Until like we get to that point, until someone is actually like a bona fide star, then it'll change. I think it's getting close though. It's gonna happen.
Yeah. Well, it's nice that there are more roles because it's, I think, allowing all of us in the disability community to also be more supportive of each other, because there was also a time where it would be kind of like you would find out about a new actor on the scene with a disability and you're like, oh, great. Because it's just more competition for that one role a year. But that doesn't feel good inside because I feel inherently like a supportive person.
Especially because that each role, no matter who it is going to change somebody's world the second they see it. And I realized that when I did 911, when I did Stephanie Gaskins and I played in EMD, a medical dispatcher. It immediately found some girls in Minnesota who I'm still very close with. They're twins with cerebral palsy, and it started this whole rapport.
Oh my gosh, I auditioned for that role, I think.
You did?
Was this a few years ago?
2018.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I went out for that. You see what I mean? We went out for the same role, you see?
Yeah.
Well, congrats on booking it.
Thank you. Yeah, that was my first big gig. So, first speaking role. So, no, I was stoked. But it just, something as simple as that is, can reach somebody, and which is why that needs to happen more often and, keep going.
Yeah, I remember when I was on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, the game show, many, many years ago. And I was on one of those episodes where at the end, I stopped and I was picking up the next day. And a little boy wrote me a MySpace message. That's how long ago this was. And he told me his mom was going to let him stay home from school the next day. He had a disability to watch the episode. And that was a game show. You know what I mean?
And it's like, yeah. And it's just like, stop starving kids of seeing themselves. Stop doing it, because they have no reference. They need to know that our ancestors are Judy Heumann and Jerry Jewell and but they also need to know that like our ancestors came out of institutions, and that's how doctors viewed us. And I still feel like that is a large portion of our setback today. But that's why I carry them with me in everything that I do. Everything that I do.
Yeah, Judy Heumann, I just read her book, and I 100% credit her with the fact that I was able to go to regular school.
And the same with, the male version of her, the father of the disability rights movements.
Justin Dart?
Well, yes, but much older.
Older than Justin Dart? FDR? I don't know.
No. I was thinking of, gosh darn it. Anyway, it'll come to me. But
okay, it'll come. But there have been some superstars in that world, but they've been, they're definitely left out of the history books. I didn't hear.
Absolutely. No, not at all. And when I played a 504 protester on Drunk History, that was obviously like a huge episode, and there's a lot of big names in that one, and it was about Judy Heumann, and I had no idea at the time who Judy Heumann was. Isn't that crazy?
No, it's not, because I didn't know who she was until a few years ago myself.
Right? So I had no idea that I was portraying her freaking story, but And then now I'm like, wow, I'm really, really glad that I got to be a part of that, because Ali Stoker was a part of it. And then I can't think of, I'm blanking on names today, man. The comedian with cerebral palsy, he's hilarious. Not Josh, well, Josh Blue is also hilarious. But
and Andy, who I have on the show next
Andy
week.
is fantastic, by the way. That's my gay husband.
Yeah, that's a good friend of yours. And Andy is actually our guest next week.
Oh, fantastic.
Or, well,
I see. We'd be like, Alice was on first. No, I'm kidding.
Yes, well.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, just to be a part of that, but I had no idea, you know, who she was or what the project was about. It's just crazy. We need to know our history and the fact that we're worthy. I mean, because it's a painful history. When I first heard about it, I was just like, geez, no fucking wonder, you know?
Yeah.
But, I mean, we have come a long way from what it was. I mean, if you look at it from that perspective.
I think that's what I'm saying. You would think that from 1990, when the ADA, you know, the Americans with Disabilities Act was passed, you would think that by now, 2021, it would be no-brainers. We'd just be zooming all around, getting in, getting out. Of course, the bathroom is accessible, and it would be the exception when something wasn't. And I'm more surprised when I go through a full day and don't face any barriers, to be honest.
Yeah, I was, yeah, that's stupid. I was at a restaurant.
I lived in New York, or when I was in New Jersey and I worked in New
York.
Oh,
yeah, I don't even want to go East Coast. And see, that's another thing that really bothers me is they go, well, we can't change the building. It's really old. So you're telling me a building is more important than someone's dignity. Got it.
No, and it's bullshit, because there's, from what I know, understand about the grandfathered-in rule, if you change anything, a faucet, a door handle, then the building no longer holds the integrity of what it was. It's no longer historical. And so the grandfathered-in clause is out the window. As far as I know, I'm not an expert on these things, but it's bullshit.
Still, the fact that they use that as an excuse to make somebody feel less comfortable or take a pee is horseshit. Like, really listen to yourselves and what you're putting out there. And, but I mean, you know, that's just it. Sometimes we weren't even allowed to be seen on the streets back in the day. So we were, it was really, really bad, our history. And I think a lot of it still very much lingers today. Like I just went out to a restaurant for the first time since the pandemic. So my wife plays softball every Sunday, so she wanted to go with her softball buddies to the bar that sponsors them, of course.
Right.
And yeah, there was like a curb to get to the outside dining. And I'm like, he was really sweet about it. He was like, I'm really sorry, there's a curb, but I'll show you where it is and I can help you. And I'm like, wow, you're really helpful, but you know, this still shouldn't be happening.
Well, that's like thoughts and prayers. It's like, okay, well, what is that doing? What is your fix it if you're sorry, if you're that embarrassed about it? But I guess we'll get there. I want to know, who is this cute, adorable creature?
Oh, Snugs. Marla, she wants to meet you. Marla. Oh my God. She's like, no, I'm napping. So this is Marla P. She is my wife's nice service dog. She is a Shih Tzu Maltese.
Aww.
She is 3 years old. And mainly she sits on my lap for compression therapy, to keep my twitching at bay and my seizures at bay, therefore. And she basically kind of is emotional support for my wife, like during doctor's visits and therapy, that kind of stuff. Yeah, she's just our little snug. She got her less than 2 months old on Craigslist, and we've been training her ever since.
I have to show you that my dog is also right behind me on the couch.
Lucha, Marta, there's another puppo.
Lucha, you're on TV. It's hot. It's hot.
Yeah, they're like, oh my God. And she likes to sit on my couch with me and watch movies, so she really is my child.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they love it, and they're just so unconditional. Oh God, they have no idea anything that they're like, what is society talking about? You guys are the best.
Well, and it's always like when we're watching like the worst films that Marla's like I remember my wife's favorite film is Silence of the Lambs. So we were watching it one time, and Marla was just glued. And I'm like, Marla, this is horrible. Don't be glued to this.
Well, I think that like for Lucci, my dog's name's Luciano, when I went into the adoption place, he saw me and he was like, a permanent lap? Like, woo! You know, he just, couldn't have been happier about that. So,
and that's the same. I think it's because of the Shih Tzu breed. They're meant for the lap. So.
Oh yeah, that's right. They love it. And that's cool that's something, see, I don't know all of the different ways that dogs can be service animals, because it's not just right picking stuff up. I mean, there's all these different ways. So the fact that your dog helps keep your legs, that's like, who would know? That's so interesting. I love that. And that's the thing about people with disabilities is, you know, we are, of course we have similarities, but we're also different, and and it's like, I don't know anything. I didn't know that you could get cerebral palsy from being born premature. I didn't even know that. I just learned that.
Really?
Today. Yes. So why would I mean, how am I supposed to know? So I think it's very, very interesting. I think that's something society needs to know and hear, that we, you know, we have differences. We're not all the same just because we have disabilities.
Right. No.
Just like any minority, right? They're not.
We're actually the most diversified minority if you think about it, because it's something that can never escape any of us. We can be disabled at any time, and it's just a normal part of life.
That's right.
So you're going to find the most diverse group of people. And I think that's what they're most scared about is
yes.
Once we finally do get to that place, we're going to be a force to be reckoned with. And we're already there.
That's right. I'm so excited that I got to have you as my first guest. You were so, so great. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Ready for what? Did you have fun?
I had a blast.
Okay, good. That's good. And I hope everybody watching had fun too. Thank you for joining us on Rolling with My Homies. Don't forget.
Rolling with the homies.
Yes, that's right. Shout out to Ty, Brittany Murphy.
Ty Frazier.
Gone too soon as well. Don't forget to follow me at Santina Muha on Instagram, and Alice as well at Rolling Stone. You can find all of our Instagram stuff on my, on the handles. You can also follow Outside In Theater on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Outside In Theater, THTR, to keep track of everything going on at OI Theater. And join us again in 2 weeks as we have Andy Arias for our next guest. Happy Pride Month, everybody. Happy
Pride Month.
Summer. Happy Thursday. Happy everything. Everybody be safe. And we'll see you soon. Thanks for watching.